coming. Again, this is a really exciting evening to be able to launch the Big Splash, which is our path forward to a new swimming future for the Met Howe Valley. And so we want to hear from you tonight about what your vision and dreams are for a new facility, and just stimulate some conversation about all of the ins and outs of how this is going to happen for our community. I want to give a thanks to the Community Center for hosting us tonight. As you all know, this Community Center is a long-lasting local establishment here in the Valley that provides so many things for our community, and we're just so grateful that it's here. They have been hit really, really hard during COVID because they have not been able to host events, meetings, and all the things that go on here. And so I just want to remind everybody this month, the Give Met Howe campaign is going on, and everyone needs the support, but the Community Center really needs your support this month during Give Met Howe. You can find their link on the Give Met Howe page, as well as ours, Friends of the Pool, and together we are trying to make this community serve you better. So thank you so much for your contributions. The other thing the Community Center really relies on is their membership base. So please consider becoming a Community Center member. All right, I want to thank Elliot Irvine and Isla Curtis for helping us with the audio visual tonight. Despite the hiccup, hopefully some more people are finding us and coming online. So thank you guys for coming up tonight. They are students at the ILC, and we really appreciate them being here tonight. For those of you online who are able to join us, there's a chat room on the right-hand side. Please provide comments and questions, and we will be moderating that throughout the evening. And I'd like to introduce the Friends of the Pool board members. You guys come up here real quick. Board members. So we have Blue Bradley, Jackie Wilk, Justin Porter,
get over here, you guys.
both Rasher. We do have some other board members, but if you see us, and Agnes is here, Onquist, Suzanne Perrin, and anyone else here from our board. And Jen Ramsey. If you guys see us in the community, have questions, please don't hesitate to stop us on the street, on the soccer field, or wherever you see us, and ask us what's going on. We'd love to talk about the pool. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Blue. She's going to give you a little history of where we're at with the Wagner Pool, our beloved Twist community pool, and then she'll hand it over to Ballard King, our consultants that are here to start the feasibility study. Thanks.
All right, hello. Thank you so much for coming out, you guys. Hey, we have people here. So I'm going to just real briefly cover how we got where we are. So many of you, I'm going to see if I can have the, have to turn it on. It is on. Okay. Oh, it's not working. Yeah, I just, down, okay. All right, so this is the Big Splash campaign. You've heard the pool in Twist was originally built in 1967 by the Wagners. So it's many years, 15 years old. The pool opened in 67, but then the town of Twist had a challenging time funding the pool. So Friends of the Pool was formed when the pool almost closed. So the Friends of the Pool formed in 2005. And we told you the current board members. And our mission is to ensure that the Meadow Valley has a safe, reliable pool for everyone to learn to swim, enjoy the water, and stay healthy. So we raise money to help support the town and to keep the pool open. So we have given over $400,000 so far, actually more now after COVID. These are just some of the things we helped fund. We raise money for every repair that has been needed. And this just is a quick graph that shows the pink line is the revenue of the pool, which has stayed steady over the years, but the expenses, the gradual blue line that kind of averages it out, have risen over the years. And obviously there's a big gap there on the revenue that the actual pool brings in versus the expenses it has. So this summarizes how the Wagner Fund, which was established before the pool was made and provides $15,000 a year for the pool. It provides 41% of the cost of running the pool each year. And then Friends of the Pool provides the other 20%. And then the general fund, which is the town of Twisp residents' taxes only, provides 30% of running the pool, and then other donations. So there's a big funding gap for running the current pool, which is only open 2.5 months a year. We did run the survey in 2019, and that kind of started the process of just looking at what people want and trying to get a new pool. And 80% of people agreed that they want maybe a year-round pool. So I can tell you lots more details about that, but I'm going to move on. And we hired a firm that did a facility assessment of the pool and basically told us that the pool is not worth repairing and should be replaced. And it is just getting really old. It's outlived its life. And as it's not up to code in a lot of ways. It's leaking a ton of water. It's costing more money because it's so old. So that was affirmative that we have to figure out how to replace the pool. So then we started some small group listening sessions last fall because it was COVID, so we didn't do big community sessions. And we had targeted groups of people telling us what they wanted, and that began the process that showed us that we need more information to help figure out what to do. So we hired a team of consultants recently, thanks to an anonymous donor through the Philadelphia Foundation that gave us money to hire amazing experts in this field of pool design and pool construction. So now Ken Ballard from Ballard and King Associates is going to take over, and he's with a recreation planning firm that specializes in feasibility studies for new aquatic recreation centers all across the United States. Thank you so much, Ken, for being here.
Well, good evening, and thanks again for being here and part of this session this evening. As Blue said, we're a recreation planning firm, and we've been around for about 30 years. We work throughout the United States. All of us are former parks and recreation professionals that have had to open and operate indoor and outdoor swimming pools, and so we have a real strong background in aquatic facility development and operations. Again, we've worked in all 50 states. One of our main areas of focus is in the Pacific Northwest. We have about 5 active projects going on between Washington and Oregon right now that involve some form of aquatic facilities as well. We deal with the feasibility aspect. Will a project be financially viable? What are the particular needs? That type of thing. But beyond our firm, Ballard King and Associates, we have 2 other firms. We have Johnston Associates, Johnston Architects. Ray is a resident here of Twisp. We've worked with Ray on a number of projects here in the Pacific Northwest as well. And again, they're the architectural side, so they deal with the capital cost projections for the facility. They have a large project team and certainly have a strong background in building facilities and recreation-based facilities in this area. The other member of our team is Water Technology. They're a national-based aquatic design firm. We've worked with them for probably 20 plus years, just endless number of projects throughout the United States, and certainly have a real strong presence here in the Pacific Northwest. Ryan Knockreiner, who will be up here in a minute, is based out of Bellingham and kind of heads up this area of the country in terms of these types of projects. And they've designed aquatic projects both indoor and outdoor across the United States and worldwide. So we also have a couple other team members that are not here that have important parts of this project as well. We have DCW Cost Management. They're a cost estimating firm, so they work with Ray and Johnston Architects to make sure that the projections that we're putting forward to build the facility, the capital side of it, are accurate as we could get for this time in the planning process. We also have Econ Northwest, which is a financial firm that helps with recreation district funding projections, dollar amounts that could come out of formations of different types of taxing entities that would be necessary potentially to fund the project, at least the operational subsidy aspect. So they will have important roles in this project as we get further along in the study. I want to talk just briefly about what our roles are and what our real tasks are to be done through this planning process. We're in the first phases of our work, and that's really where we're kicking this off. And we start with what we call a market analysis, which is understanding the demographic characteristics, the presence of other pools, the performance of your existing pool as part of that process. We also are doing some community input. That's what tonight's all about. We'll talk about this at the end, but we'll have a series of other community meetings coming up. And we're having conversations with different stakeholders, focus groups, to kind of build on the information that the Friends of the Pool have worked on over the last several years. We'll determine what aquatic and recreation amenities potentially would be included in this pool. We'll ask some questions for you all tonight, both here in the audience as well as online. We'll look at different sites, so opportunities to determine where this facility would be placed. We'll talk about that a little bit further as well and ask for your input on that also. From that, we'll be developing some potential options for what this facility would include, where it'd be located. We'll come out of that then with a conceptual plan, a basic concept of what the preferred version of this facility might be. And then we use that information and develop operating costs, revenue projections for operating that particular pool at that location, capital cost estimate, what's going to cost to build it. We also look at, again, how it would be funded and if you'd have any partners available in the project itself. So those are our roles. That's what our really tasks are to be completed during this process. And again, we're really on the front end of this, and so we're just getting started on all this process. I'm going to turn it over to Ryan Knockreiner with Water Technology, and he's going to talk a little bit about kind of this whole design process and how we kind of get to the preferred option as it relates to aquatics. Ryan?
Thanks, Ken. As Ken mentioned earlier, so Water Technology designs aquatic centers and water parks exclusively. And so one of the things that we do to start out in a process like this is we use a perspective, what we call purpose-driven design, meaning before we jump to looking at what are the features and cool things and sprays and fun things that we can put in there, we want to back up and look at why is somebody coming to the facility to begin with. And we center everything on that. And that leads us to what are the types of activities that are going to occur there, and then what are the types of spaces, and then finally the types of features. So it's all centered on why are you going to go to the aquatic center? And that's why we're here today, because we want to get that feedback from you to determine, what is the purpose of that facility for you. Now, there's a lot that goes into determining what we can and can't do with the design. A lot of different factors and features, codes, risk management, safety plans, lifeguarding. But certainly some of the two biggest factors that influence the design are just the simple aspects of water temperature and water depth. And again, that's information that we want to get from you as far as your preferences and your needs for your particular programs that you're seeking out. So I want to go through a number of slides that just show some images of the major types of water in a modern aquatic center. First and foremost certainly is competition, lap swimming, or just that flat water space for different sport activities that can occur. Leisure water, and this comes in various shapes and sizes and depths with a lot of different features, but all purposed on recreation and entertainment. And finally, the third biggest pillar is therapy and wellness, warm water environment for relaxation and rehabilitation. There's also spaces which we call rivers or lazy rivers, where currents of water move around in a lot of different channels and activities and fun means and methods, as well as wading pools, very shallow water with a lot of fun activities, mostly geared towards our youngest children in the pool, as well as splash pads, areas where we have a lot of fun interactive features, but no actual standing water. So it's very safe and very interactive.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah.
Okay, we've reached that time where we want you to help us in this planning process. So we have a number of questions we're going to be asking you over the next 15 minutes. And this is where we want the people here in the room to raise their hand and ask any question or give us responses to these questions, and also those people online to list their questions in the chat, and we'll try to answer those here as well. So our first question is, have you all that's here or online utilized the twist pool in the last 5 years? Anybody? So a lot of hands go up. What's the primary reason that you've used that pool? Is it for swimming lessons? Is it for recreational purposes? Is it for competitive swimming? Why do you go to that pool? What's the main purpose for it? I hear swim team. So you took swimming lessons there and then swim team use? Okay. Other comments on why people use the pool? Swim lessons, okay. Recreational swimming? Open swimming, okay. A place for kids to play. I mean, these are all basic parameters for pools, yes.
It's a safe place for kids, younger kids to hang out.
Safe place for younger kids to hang out. All right, important in this whole process. So there's a lot of good comments on why you've gone to the pool in the last 5 years. What are the concerns that you have with that pool since you've been there? Is it great? Is it not so great? What are your thoughts on the pool as it is today? Yes,
We
ma'am.
want it open year round.
You'd like to see an open year-round, the pool open year-round? Yes, ma'am?
The facility itself is really useful, but I remember throughout the past years, just like frequent like shutdowns with maintenance and stuff like that. And the year-round, like not having that year-round option for swim team as well.
Okay, so not having the year-round option for swim team use, the fact that it's been shut down here for the last year and a half from COVID and maintenance and other concerns as well. So lack of ability to have it available. Other thoughts? Yes, sir.
We deal with forest fire smoke, and it's not an option when the air has to go play at the pool.
Okay, so forest fire smoke limits the ability to utilize the outdoor pool during that time of the year.
I would say that we have actually a pretty committed water aerobics program of seniors that use that program.
Okay,
They're not represented here tonight, but I also think that the pool isn't super conducive to that population.
so comments that the pool's not real conducive for use for outwater exercise, and there is a group that has used it for that, but it's not ideal for that purpose.
It's not organized? Yeah, I think, yeah.
So the water temperature is part of the issue,
Air
and
temperature.
air temperature as well. Okay.
The capacity, especially for the swim team.
Okay, so capacity issues in
Just
terms.
7 people in the lane is that fun, is it?
Capacity at lap swim is an issue.
So capacity for lap swimming, for competitive swimming, in terms of the number of people that want to do that with the number of lanes that are available. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
There are times, not so much in the recent past, but, kind of rewinding where it's just been really crowded, so, you're in the pool, but you're not really doing much.
Okay. So the pool can be too crowded. All right. Let's move to our next question, and we can certainly take more comments as we go along with this. But beyond using the twist pool, what other pools in the area have you utilized? Canada, pools in Canada, those indoor pools, outdoor pools,
Indoor pools in Canada,
okay?
our family goes there.
Just to swim, okay? Other people that have used pools in the area, yes, ma'am?
There's an indoor pool in Linwood, Washington.
Yep.
It's really fantastic, year round, it has a therapy side, it has all of the variety of that.
So the Linwood pool, and both our firms worked on that pool when it was renovated and it worked out well. There was a lot of challenges with it, but it did end up working well. Other thoughts, other pools that people have used that they've really liked, and why have you liked those pools? Wenatchee's pool, okay.
It's indoor and open.
Okay, so the fact that it's indoor is a major factor, all right, yes, ma'am.
So it's not in the area, but, pool in Brisbane, Australia.
That's not in the area, that's right.
That is, combines, promenade and connects you to, the rest of the town.
Okay.
And the retail spaces, and the pool is there and it's available to anyone, includes showers to the home,
Wow.
have a place to shower. It's a very well thought out piece of the community center.
Okay, so a pool in Brisbane, Australia. All right, yes.
There's also a really good one in Bend, Oregon.
Yeah.
It's all outdoors, but they have really nice shade coverings, and they have like a recreational area that's separate from the like glass one.
Okay, so a pool in Bend, Oregon, the Juniper Center, or is it a different one there?
Yeah, I think.
Okay.
No, yeah.
There's a pool in Eugene, Oregon, the Amazon.
The Amazon, yep, pool, then Eugene, Oregon, yep. Okay. So the big question is there a need for a new pool in Methow Valley? And if so, is this an indoor pool, an outdoor? Okay, so a pool that meets a broad-based need, indoor preference, supports competitive swimming as well as recreational swimming, something kind of that's designed to meet really a broad-based set of needs. Yes.
We have a lot of facilities here, so I would add therapy.
So therapy would be another one that's not listed that would be important. Okay, yes.
Well, I would just add, back to kind of Oregon, the pool.
Okay.
There's an area that has rivers and lakes, and every child and every adult is now super. So there's an educational component as well.
So the need to make sure that everybody knows how to swim. When you you live in an area where there's a lot of water from lakes and rivers and everything else. Yep, okay. Other thoughts on the need for a pool? Is there anybody here that doesn't think a new pool is necessary? All right. Okay. So as we talk about this and while the focus of this project has been on and will continue to be on aquatics, I think there's also some opportunities to say, well, are there other types of indoor recreation needs that should be considered, as we like to say, dry side amenities, dry side uses that are important as well? Before we really get into that, I know there's a group here for us tonight to talk about what they think are some of the key amenities for this facility. So if you want to come up and I'll kind of transfer this over to your slides and we'll let you weigh in on it.
So we are, I'm Joe Query, I'm the senior advisor at the ILC, and we get the chance to do design labs at school. And this was our first go around at a design lab, and we had a group of 5. We had a group of 5 students who chose the design lab based on what teens need most in the valley here. And then we also have a student here, Anya, who one of her projects is working on the feasibility of a skate park. So these guys are going to present kind of the process we went through and how we came to where we are today. I'll start with the process. Okay. So anyway, the design lab process really starts with building empathy with your target population. So what that meant for us was going out and talking to teens, going out and talking to adults who work with teens in the Valley. And then you get into this, the part of defining what is your problem. And then you ideate and figure out what are some solutions for this problem. And that's kind of why we are here today. And then we get into prototype. What could the solutions be? So I'm going to let Gunnar talk about kind of who we spoke with and why we came to this meeting in particular.
So for our teen center, we figured, best people to interview would be teens. That's the most important population we'd want to learn from. So we went and personally went to the Liberty Bell, interviewed students there of various grades, younger and older, on what they would want to see in the Valley, teen center or not. And if it was a teen center, what they'd want to have, like what would they want it to be recreational? Would they want pool tables? Would they want a pool? What they'd want in it? And just got their opinion on it. What was good, what was bad. We later also ended up working on a Google form. We sent that out to both schools. We got over 100 responses from different students and teens in the Valley on what they wanted for either a teen center or just in general that they felt that teens needed. We also had arranged a interview at FIRE, which is a teen center up by OMAC. It's been very successful, was up and running not that long ago. And we discussed with them what worked with them, what didn't, and why they thought a teen center might be a good idea and what worked well. So this is our survey. There was a large group of roughly half of the people either were neutral on the matter or thought that their needs weren't being met, and a large chunk was also feeling that their needs were met, though it was a little bit less. This is how many of them thought there would be a need for a teen center in the Valley. Overwhelming majority felt that there was a need for a teen center. Yeah.
Why don't you talk about what they thought a teen center could improve?
Yeah, so some of the things that they wanted for a teen center was a place to hang out, be with other kids outside of a school environment, somewhere to be and not the park or the pool or whatever. They also, it was popular for like games and like a pool table maybe, and other various just recreational stuff to do, to just hang out, have fun. Also a lot of responses we got from our forum was talking not only about teen centers, but skate parks were also a very popular idea, or a skate park in the Valley. And that's what Anya is going to talk about.
Hey, I'm Anya Sorensen. I would just, first of all, like to start off, I am thrilled with the momentum you guys are having on the new pool. That's been something that I've always thought about as a child growing up in this Valley. As Gunnar mentioned, within the surveys that was sent out to students at the high school, there was a lot of responses that mentioned skate parks. And I have a 9-year-old brother who I know that would just love a facility like that. There's lots of young kids here who would use that as recreation. It gets kids active. There's a very large population of people who skateboard at the high school. And I think that having as many resources for, the youth here to just have more options of things to do, getting outside, like staying active. I think that the past few years have just gotten us really stuck inside. And I think that having having facilities is really important here. And I think that there would be a huge support from the community. So yeah, that's my, and I'm trying to get this started as a senior project. So or even just getting the ball rolling on the conversation, so that's my goal.
So one of the things teens said over and over, and a lot of adults who work with teens, is that, like, where do kids go in our community when it gets dark? If they're, even after ski practice, or, teens naturally stay up later than, us adults. And where are they going to go? And because our community is so spread out, it's hard to go visit friends. And so where is that central space that teens can go to hang out? And so this is where something like a recreation center would be really, really nice. And what teens also said is the Valley has a lot of new things, nice things that are designed for adults. But what is there that is teen specific? And so one thing they talked a lot about is if we had a recreation center, cool, all of that, but also a space just for teens, a dedicated teen center. So our conclusion is that in our community, it's easy for teens to feel socially isolated because they live so far apart from one another. And the pandemic has made that a lot worse because they tend to be in cliques. And that they think very, very highly of this idea of having a teen center with both recreation facilities and mental health resources to help them thrive in this community. Thank you.
All right, well, thanks so much for that. That's kind of the input we're looking for on this project. So let's go back to talking about other amenities besides aquatics that the rest of you folks here in the room this evening and possibly listening online, what other amenities should we be talking about besides aquatics, if any? We've heard the teen center. Are there other ideas of what should be included? Yes, ma'am.
My dream for the Valley is to have a recreation center that has focuses on health and wellness.
Okay.
So it would include like the weight room, it would include the right compliance, a place, a multi-use recreational space could also include, but doesn't necessarily include, events, a space that would be converted into a center.
Okay.
And it really becomes, this work becomes a place for the community to gather. It becomes a place where we can gather with a focus on health and wellness.
Okay, so a facility that focuses on health and wellness, that has fitness amenities, that has event space in it. Did I leave anything else out that you would, indoor tennis court, okay. So, all right, those are some good ideas. Anybody else have any input on other amenities to include?
Climbing wall.
A climbing wall, okay. That's a good amenity that oftentimes is seen in an indoor recreation facility. Any other thoughts on what to include? Daycare. Talk to me about that. When you say daycare, are you talking about day-long daycare or childcare for people while they're using the facility? Both. So both day-long childcare options as well as, child watch, as we call it, for people that are utilizing the facility that's short-term just during the time that they're there. Okay. All right. You know, anytime we're talking about a facility of any nature, where you put it is a critical decision in the process. That's part of what we'll be working on during this study. So we're not looking necessarily for specific locations in our discussions tonight, but more about what's important to you in terms of criteria that we as a project team should be looking at when we start to determine the best site for this. So, you know, some of the criteria could be, things like central location, walkability, that type of thing. So help us a little bit by giving us some ideas on criteria we should be considering when we're looking at sites. Yes. Okay, a location that kids can walk to from school. Okay. Other people and thoughts? Yes.
I agree with that statement of the long relationship, but I also think that other things be useful about every
So having the facility is part of and located within the town itself. Central, okay. Okay. So not only walking distance, but proximity to other opportunities, that type of thing. All right. Able to walk and ride bikes. Okay. Yes. Okay, so the pool needs to remain in Twisp. There's other opportunities, recreational opportunities throughout the valley. It's important to keep a pool in Twisp. All right? Any other ideas, any other thoughts or criteria that we need to be thinking about? Yes.
It has to have, it has to be accessible, so it can't be, ideally it's not like a financial burden.
Okay, so accessible. Talk to me a little bit about when you say accessible, are you meaning it needs to be visible? It needs to be accessible? We've heard from walking and riding bikes. Is it accessible by vehicles? Define a little bit what accessibility means from your standpoint.
It's really multi-thread, right? So it's,
Okay, so accessible a lot of different ways.
yeah.
Okay.
I would say our community is growing, so I think that we can expand.
Okay. So the community is growing, needs to be a site where the facility over time has the ability to expand. So a large enough site to accommodate, later potential phases to the project. And that's always a concern, is when you get a site that doesn't kind of box you in with going, well, that's it. That's all you can do. So yeah, size is always a criteria for us in this process. Anything else? Okay, so on a bus line. Okay. Whether it's a public bus or a school bus, but ways to get people to and from the location. All right? Okay. So when it's all kind of said and done, how big of a priority is the project that we've kind of discussed here this evening? Is this a low priority for you all? Medium priority? High priority? Talk to me about how important, from your standpoint, this is for the valley. High priority, I hear.
Yeah, we can do things so much, and I think it's number one in my opinion, but
Okay.
that is enough.
So it's a high priority so you can continue to offer swim lessons. All right?
Clean air, recreation. These are high priorities.
Okay. Yeah, so an alternative to the smoky air that's out there, and I'm assuming that means going indoors to a facility. Okay?
So I think there's an opportunity, if you want to control the valley, to let the high priority across the valley.
Right.
But if you look at what the iceberg and the transformation that occurs in the iceberg,
Right.
and when people say, oh, the ice cream, over by the red water is good enough, they love the ice cream. We all love the ice cream. I mean, everyone loves the ice cream, right?
That's a beautiful facility. We saw it today.
So there's an opportunity to think about it, just as we transform that, we can transform water and other forms of transportation.
Okay. So the ice rink's an example of what can be done and the ways to kind of bring forward a pool using that same kind of concept in terms of that. And it is. That's a wonderful facility. We were duly impressed. So other thoughts on the priority for the project? Let's talk about one of the big issues with any project of this nature is how do you fund this? How do you move it forward? It's just kind of references. On the left side, and kind of the white boxes are kind of the traditional funding sources for most public pools. And it means that the entity, whether it's a city, whether it's a county, is the primary funder, and they're doing it primarily through tax dollars, oftentimes supporting a bond issue or something of that sort. That's certainly a possibility. On the right side, then, there's other alternative sources of funding, and that's everything from fundraising to grants to partnerships, other ways to try to help fund a facility that's not necessarily fully based on just taxing. So as we talk about this in some big picture terms, how do we fund a project of this nature? Keep in mind, when we talk about aquatics, we're talking about two necessary parts of the funding process. We have to fund, obviously, the dollars just to build the facility, but also we have to be able to fund it long-term to operate it. And, earlier in the presentation, Blue went over kind of how that's been done over the last few years, and the fact that the pool cannot cover its cost of operation through fees that are generated by use of that facility. And that's a general characteristic for public pools, no matter where they are, is that it's very difficult to cover all of your costs of operation through fees. So it also says we have to find a way, in most cases, to fund the operational shortfall. So that difference between expenses and revenue. So as we look at some of these sources I have listed up here, and it's not everything, how do we go about trying to fund this pool? That's always the hard one. So trying to utilize multiple sources. And that's absolutely what we're seeing in this day and age, is it the more areas that you can pull funds from, the better it is. Now, it takes a lot of work to do that. But all right, multiple sources, the more the better. Yes.
I totally agree with that, and I think within like our tax law, I think that we should have the school district map in the rec district.
Okay.
So it's not just a conflict, trying to do early first recommendations.
All right. So the need to set up a larger taxing district, a special district, there's numbers of different options in Washington for how that can be done. I know that was proposed once in the past and it wasn't successful. What would be different about moving that forward this time? What are the lessons learned from the last time around that would position this to have a positive vote this time? Any thoughts? Other ideas on funding? Yes.
Again, I'll use something from the valley as an example. Route 1 did a wonderful job of providing resources and voice experience for I think there's an opportunity not to do that individual silos, but to say, how do we get funding, governmental funding, either through grants,
Okay.
tax district or whatever, but that's tied to health outcomes. They're tied to some outcomes. And then you combine it with, you do partnerships with the school, with the teaching, with the planning, you do partnerships, with some of the other social services in the valley to say, let's get some of our, elderly, active again, whatever, right? You start to look at it in a different way than just either each individual block that, when maximize each of them.
Okay, so again, the idea of going and utilizing multiple sources, but more blurring of the lines and trying to make sure we're taking, care to make sure we're optimizing all the opportunities that are there. And again, using some of the examples that have been done on other projects in the valley as well. Yes, ma'am.
I think community partnerships is really important, and partners can connect with whatever aspect of the center that resonates with them. And I think the major recognition would work, we can do a lot more people.
Okay. All right, so continuing to emphasize partnerships and where those opportunities are there for partners to get some benefit out of the facility. Maybe this time a recreation district would work. More people are here and present than the last time it was around, that type of thing. Yeah.
And like the company does this with,
No.
but just knowing the shortage of employees that they're in places now, I'm not worried about work. I was at school, I was just half during my work with the drink. People are hard up for employees. And they all, it sounds like lots of want to use the place, but who is willing to this place and how can we make sure that people who are living here can live here?
Right.
And so that's gonna be a probably
No, that is a,
down the road.
that is a good point though, and it is an important aspect of that, and it's only gotten a lot worse here in the last few months. It's never been easy running aquatic facilities and getting lifeguards to begin with, and it's become super acute in the last since this spring. And so, yes, the ability to staff whatever you move forward is a critical aspect. And it doesn't make any difference if you're hearing whisper about every town or big city in America right now. It's an issue. And it's an issue for a lot of different things, as you said, from retail establishments to others, but it's particularly difficult for recreation facilities. So you're absolutely right. And we need to be at something that can be, operated and managed with staff that would be able to make a living and be able to live here as well. We always see that as an issue, yes. Yeah, we'll be developing as part of this process, we will be developing an operations budget that will identify rates of compensation for any of the staff that's necessary to run this facility. And if it's year-round facility, that certainly changes the dynamics of that. So we'll note in there, and we project out to a potential opening date what it's going to require to operate that facility and attract everything from lifeguards to facility manager. So we'll note that in there of what that's going to take. And again, it's gone up dramatically just to try to get even part-time staff, and especially lifeguards and that type of thing become a particularly big problem. So, yes. Fundraising is part of that up there. It's in kind of different categories, but absolutely. And so, okay, trying to use opportunities to raise funds for this. And again, I think having those multiple sources that's kind of been mentioned and that go across a lot of those boxes that you see is pretty important to the process. So, okay. All right. Well, funding is one we'll be continuing to work on. We're going to be identifying what it's going to cost for any particular option moving forward that you would build, and also what it would take to operate, and trying to fit that to the realities of the environment it's going to go into to make sure it's something that's supportable from a funding standpoint will be important. Yes. Okay, so maybe we need to look and make sure that we're scaling our vision or having to scale back our vision to fit the funding realities. What does that mean to you? Where would you start to say to scale that back? What does scale back mean to you? Okay. So starting with, maybe just the pool part and maybe not as large as a full scale pool, but trying to start with what's really needed from an aquatic standpoint. Okay. All right. So we've touched on a lot of things, and hopefully we've asked some questions that you find valuable to discuss. But are there other issues out there, other concerns that we haven't talked about tonight that we should know, the concerns that you may have, other things that are good for us to know? Yes, in the back. Yeah, and that was kind of went back to that question on how big of a priority. And I mean, if there's other priorities, you're saying, well, yeah, we think this is important, but we think we need to deal with this or that first. We need to know that, and that's okay, and it's good to know that. So I didn't necessarily say is this the top priority, but where does it stand? And if there's other issues that need to be resolved either with this or before this, that's important to know. So knowing that, is there, okay. Right, yeah, there's a new sports complex down there. The fields are in, yeah. Right. So there's a lot of different things going on out there, from the sports complex to trails, other things. That all needs to be thought of as we start to think about this particular project as well. Okay. Well, that's a good point. Yeah. Yes. No, we mentioned one of the other members of our team is a firm called Econ Northwest, which is an economic planning firm. And they're going to look into the different options for recreation districts and what's most appropriate for your particular situation. There's about 4 different options out there in terms of how you, from a standpoint of state government, you can do this. And there's pros and cons to those. And we'll identify that. They do that, so they'll come back and say, we think this is the most appropriate form of establishing a district for this particular situation. So yes, that we are going to look at that as part of our scope of work. Anything else that we haven't talked about this evening? Yes. Okay, so if the pool moved from its existing location, what would happen to that particular site? What would happen to the old pool? What would happen, to Twist Park there and losing that amenity out of there? Important point, if it did move out of there, we'd have to factor in what goes on with that, and you'd have to plan and put some money into removal. We kind of talked about that today a little bit in our discussions, is you'd have to put some money into, in a sense, to remove that if you went some other location. But that's a very good point. Sure. You could. Okay, so maybe use it and convert it to a skate park. Good point. And it may be possible to do that with what's there. All right. Any other thoughts out there that we haven't touched on? Well, one of the things we're going to do... Oh, okay, I thought. Right. Okay. So year-round aquatics, having a year-round aquatics option is important, something to do in the winter, and to provide some alternatives, some of the outdoor activities that may not be as accessible to certain segments of the population based on age, income, a lot of different factors. Okay. Snow levels as well. Yeah. Yeah, the climate change issue. Okay. Ah. So including as part of the aquatic center a hot tub or sauna. Right. Okay, so a year-round pool will provide opportunities for youth and students and learn to swim opportunities for older folks from a therapy aspect. So trying to, in a sense, work across, again, all the different types of needs that are there. Okay. So that would broaden out by having like a hot tub or a sauna would broaden out the spectrum of who and how the facility would be utilized. Okay. Yes. When you say funding, that do you mean through fees they're paying to utilize the facility? Again, when we talk about aquatics, and especially when we talk about indoor aquatics, certainly people that are coming from outside the area help to provide more revenue. The revenues are not higher than the costs, so you're not getting enough revenue to utilize to help operate or even build other amenities, because that gap is still there between expenses and revenues. Yes. Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's high, whatever the funding agent is, that if it's anything that's based on tax dollars, it's very normal to have a resident discount rate, so that says those that are, in a sense, paying for it through their tax dollars are getting a lower rate. The other thing is on your day passes, though, typically are a little bit higher, and that's because of people that are coming here for 2 or 3 days, whatever it may be, are asked to pay a little bit higher rate, partly for the convenience of just having a day visit. So yes, that's part of when we'll be developing for whatever option moves forward on this, we'll be developing a potential fee schedule that will identify some of that. But yeah, I mean, you typically pay more. Your most expensive form of admission would be paying a day pass over, like you said, a season pass. Obviously, it's based on how many times you use it, but your cost per visit, if you will, if you're a very serious user, drops down the more times you use it. Go ahead. Well, yes, there are some examples of it's really in the form of a partnership. Oftentimes, I was just in a facility in the Detroit area last week that has had a long-term partnership with a healthcare provider that's been very effective as a tool to help from a revenue production standpoint. It also has been, and they have one that's really in the hospital, besides doing some physical therapy and other types of things, also has some social service provisions in there. And it's not in a community that's particularly on the lower end of the socioeconomic spectrum, but they're doing a lot of services, especially for younger children on a lot of social service levels. So yeah, there are some of those around there, and finding what it is that they're looking for and what is an appropriate partnership for them that meets their particular needs. But that's an example. That's a facility that we potentially will be expanding because the partner is looking for more space, as well as the nonprofit that runs the facility as well. So yeah, there's a few of those out there. They're not common, I would say, but they've been becoming more so in the last few years. Yes, there was. Well, there are some, and one of the things that when we talk any kind of pool that's going to have some type of a recreational appeal for people to come and swim, and really for more recreationally purposes and relaxation, then trying to make that an enjoyable experience is really critical. So, if we put a pool in this space, it's not going to be particularly exciting. So the introduction of a lot of windows. And now it's also, especially when you have an outdoor pool already, how do we make, especially if you go indoor, one of the options is to try to make it seem like during the summer hours, it's more like an outdoor pool. So not unusual, and Ryan can talk more to this, putting roll-up doors on there. So it literally, on nice warm days, one whole side of the pool may open up to the outside by just literally having a series of garage doors. That's done reasonably common now across the country for summer use. And the idea is to try to make that. So that's one way. It's still an indoor pool, and it starts getting cold. Those garage doors are down, they're insulated, and you're an indoor pool. But in the summer, you're able to do that. Somebody mentioned Linwood. Linwood has a retractable roof over part of it, which is one of the things, because that was a pool where they used to take the cover off during the summer. So you have a retractable. They have a wall that moves to the outside on the thing that allows access to the outside as well. Some of the other options are you can build an indoor pool and you can build an outdoor pool. But there's two pools, the expenses that go with that, so that's the most expensive option. Then there's ones, and we talked a little bit about that today, where you might have an indoor pool, and again, you have the roll-up doors and everything else, and you put a spray pad outside that's utilized during the summer. A lot less investment, a lot less operationally, but does provide those opportunities to go out there. So we heard people say indoor pool. We also heard people say, the idea of having both of those. So I think we will be exploring some of those options as we move forward. Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah, they're going to seal up, and again, Ryan can probably talk, and even Ray a little bit more about them. They have to make a tight seal during the winter, or we're just losing a ton of air anyway. So they have to be. Now, are they as good as a solid window? No. Just because of the nature of being able to open and close it, but it is still trying to get a weather tight seal in there during the winter months. And they've done a lot of these in, honestly, in environments that are worse than what you have here in terms of cold and snow. So it's not, so this is not a new concept. It's been done quite well in very similar or even worse environments in Canada, as well as down in Colorado and Montana, facilities in there as well. So. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as Ray indicated, yes, having a good seal is important. Air quality is a big one. And pools have to bring in indoor pools have to bring in a lot of outside air. So, if it's smoke season, we're bringing in some of that. So that filtration becomes just really paramount to pull all that contaminant out of there into the facility. People that were not here this evening that want to give their opinion, they can basically get on there, answer these same questions I've posed today, and give us their feedback. And we would encourage you, friends, neighbors, family, whoever it may be, to go ahead and take advantage of that opportunity and give us more input beyond just you all here this evening. Also, we want to talk about what kind of next steps. We're kind of lined out here. Again, we're in the front piece of this kind of September, October time frame right now. We've got a lot of work to do to get to April and May when we'll be issuing the final report. As part of this process, we're going to come back to you several times in this. So we're going to come back sometime probably in January or February with, probably as a virtual or some combination of what we did tonight. It's kind of a learning experience, but we'll get that down. But we're going to kind of come back to you with, here's what we've learned. Here's what we're thinking about. We're going to kind of develop some options and test those and get some input from you all. So it's going to be much more about us kind of telling you what we've learned and then you giving us reaction. We'll do some more work in January and February, and then we'll come back and kind of have we'll be about 90% done with our work in March and April, and kind of say, here's where we are. We're about ready to finish this up. What do you think? Or any kind of last minute changes. So you have 2 other chances to weigh in. We'll have other things coming up on the website that'll certainly give you some opportunities as well. So hang with us. You'll hear as we move forward, probably again after the holidays sometime in January, be our next community meeting. And again, we encourage you to come back, have other folks as well, or again, kind of use some of the online options that we have available as well. But in the short term, again, whatever you can do to get other people to hop on the Friends of the Pool website and again, give their responses to the questions we asked tonight, we'd sure appreciate it. So thanks so much for the time this evening. We really appreciate it.